Rachel Reeves is going to bankrupt this country and your family in what I think is one of the most irresponsible moves she's ever made, and that is a pretty tough field. This is not a video about dry economics. It's really important, so please do watch it. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe, but more importantly, hit the bell notification icon. It's the best way to absolutely guarantee you get all my videos as soon as they are released. Look, you know, I have to beg you to watch this video simply because I know that people don't necessarily care about economics, but it's really, really important what I'm going to explain to you, and it's really, really easy to understand. Effectively, it's called PSNFL. It's all to do with public sector net debt fiscal liabilities, right? Oh my God, that sounds mad. Actually, it's really easy to understand. Effectively, the government has a credit card, and that credit card is based on a certain credit limit, and that is based on what assets the government has. Now, at the moment, the only thing the government really lists its assets is its tax income. But that's not going to give Rachel Reeves an ability to waste as much money as she'd like to waste. She's decided that she's going to spend, because she believes in the old age Labour economic theory that you can borrow your way out of debt and you can spend your way out of poverty. Two things which I think most people would understand are entirely stupid. So what is persnuffling and why is it so important? Why it's so important is this. The government has decided to change its own borrowing rules so that what it'll now be able to do is list as an asset two things. It's, well, that was three, but two things. First of all, the student loan book, but secondly, the assets in the pension fund. And it'll be able to mortgage those two things. So in addition to mortgaging all of the money that comes in tax, it can now mortgage these two assets. Now, let's just be clear about those two assets. Firstly, the student loan book is not an asset, it's a liability held by British people. That is to say that it is a debt by British people. They owe money to something which, okay, the government officially owns, but that makes it neutral, doesn't it? If I owe you a tenner and you owe me a tenner, then we're all square. The idea that you can say that you have an asset because the people that owe you money are the people that owe you money and you owe them money as well. It's just an entirely stupid mess. So there's that. Then there's the pension fund. Well, one of the biggest problems the United Kingdom has is its overly generous public sector pension fund that is now going bankrupt. And so whilst you list the assets of the pension fund, you're not listing the liabilities either. So what does this mean? What this means is that Rachel Reeves can follow her fiscal plan, but also get £50 billion more money into the coffers to waste on stupidity. Now, we know that they decided to stop the winter fuel payment, which I think saved them about £1 billion, but they decided to give the trade unions £11 billion. All of this idea of public sector investment is something which I don't believe is really true. Let's look at the three occasions when public sector investment really worked. There's the New Deal under FDR, which I have to say largely didn't make a massive amount of difference. It's just a load of old road building and whatever. Then you have in Germany. By the way, once again, I can't say some words because YouTube will go crazy. In Germany in the 1930s, there was the big building program, including the Autobahn, and of course there was the Soviet Union's economic miracle under the 5-year plan. Well, let's first of all dismiss the Roosevelt thing simply because it didn't make much difference to the country. In the case of Germany in the 1930s, the road building program, the Autobahn program, fundamentally was funded by government debt. And how did they get out of that debt? They invaded the rest of Europe. Right? So that wasn't necessarily a great thing. The reality is the German government of the 1930s could never have paid back that bill for that public works programme had they not stolen money from abroad. And also the other thing that lifted wages in Germany during that period was that the labour force was reduced, something that I won't go into, but you all know what happened to the labour force in Germany because of the actions of the government. In terms of the Soviet Union, yes, there was an economic miracle in GDP. And of course, people did talk about the fact that in the 1930s, the Soviet Union had been insulated from the financial problems caused by the Wall Street crash of '29. But there was an important point about the 5-year plan. They moved people from the villages, from being peasants into the cities to build factories. That was the economic strategy of the Soviet Union. If you move people from making grain to making tractors, actually, even if you don't have any better economics, the country will appear to be richer anyway. And so that's how the Soviet Union did it. And of course, also, the Soviet Union also reduced the population of people working in villages, although admittedly that was slightly before the Wall Street crash. And so all the examples of this Keynesian spending has failed. And I didn't even give the example of the government spending in the United Kingdom, the nationalisation of British coal, the nationalisation of British steel, the nationalisation of British rail, the nationalisation of National Express. None of these things worked well for the United Kingdom, so I'm not even including them in the examples. And yet Rachel Reeves believes that she can spend, spend, spend and hope for the best. Well, what will happen with this 50 billion? Well, first of all, we have no prospect of being able to pay it off. But secondly, it will just simply suck in workers from abroad because of the uncontrolled immigration plan. So we will mortgage your children's future and give all the money to foreigners like we always do. But here's the most important thing, more than all of them. This country is squealing. This country is in trouble. This country gets worse and worse and worse every time you come to it if you live abroad. Many people from Spain who moved to Spain say that. And what's happening now is that your children are going to be forced to pay back this bill. They're being racially discriminated against on the grounds they're white. Their schools are starting to fail. Their healthcare is absolutely terrible. The infrastructure is falling apart. In the jobs market, they're going to be discriminated against quite openly, and we'll have to accept that because certain people have been put on a legal pedestal and other people are left wallowing in the misery behind. But now also, they're going to have to pay the bill for all of this. This country cannot afford socialism anymore. We need to make some changes. I personally believe that we need either the Conservatives or UKIP or Reform to get their backsides into gear. And I think in the case of two of those, Reform and UKIP, they appear to be doing it a little bit, the Conservative Party less so. But we were talking this week about Rachel Reeves and her dishonesty. Yes, she did lie on her CV. Yes, she did lie about her book. Yes, she did plagiarise things. Yes, she did steal from Wikipedia. Yes, she did nick her economic policy. But the most important thing of them all is she's wrong about economics. Oh, by the way, before I go any further than this, let me just say, if I'd worked for HBOS before the 2008 financial crash, I'd have rathered work in a customer service help desk than worked as an economist, because the customer service help desk were never accused of any wrongdoing. It was the economists that were. But nonetheless, her policy, which is spend, spend, spend and hope for the best, will fail badly. But at what point are we going to give up on this socialist principle? At what point are we going to say the experiment has failed when we have no economy, no government, no democracy left? That's the way it feels like it's going. Don't let Rachel Reeves mortgage your future. Once again, contact your Member of Parliament and say you do not support fiscal rules under PSNFL that allow Rachel Reeves to mortgage something that doesn't exist. The student loan book is not an asset. The pension fund is not an asset. They are simply liabilities that are being now mortgaged as if they were assets. Sounds dry, but I hope I've explained it properly. Until next time, goodbye.